Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and anybody else who's there. This is the third part in a series about how to make a living as a writer. Now we're going to talk about the way I've made a living as a writer, and I've done all right. Some of you will be shocked. I don't think you'll be that shocked because we have discussed it before, but some of you will be shocked. I am that terrible thing. I am a journalist. I belong to the Beelzebub of media. I belong to the hell from the print works. Yes, I'm a tabloid journalist, have been since before I was born, really, and I'm still going. Still making a living. I write for newspapers like The Sun. I write for newspapers like the Daily Mail. I write for newspapers like the Daily Mirror. Ooh! And for newspapers like the Daily Star. I also write for the Times. I also write for the Guardian. Most places, really. I also write for magazines. And I also write my own blog. Yeah, I'm a blogger as well. A blogger, eh? Who'd be one of them? Now let's have a first look at the Prince of Darkness. Yeah? What is the Prince of Darkness? It is newspapers, the newspaper industry, an industry which apparently is dying, and people spread it all over that other kind of media, social media, and say that newspapers are a dying industry. Now, I must say, in a way, the people who say that are right. It is. It's been dying for over a century. It's such old-fashioned technology. The technology it uses was invented by somebody called Caxton, basically, and they transferred it onto computers 30 years ago. I was right at the beginning of computerized newspapers as well. And yeah, strange place, strange business. It uses techniques that have been used since Caxton, since Dickens, since all those people. And people have been buying newspapers for centuries. Now I'm just going to go over there and I'm going to get something and I'm going to read something to you. Bear with me, because being in control of everything, I didn't open it up. I go, it's on its way, it's on its way. I'll now introduce you to my glasses. If you see, they go like that, and that's because I sat on them. So I have to do that with them. Right, let's have a look. We might be here. Are you ready? Oh no. I'm not ready. I'm nearly ready. In fact, I'm ready. Now here's something to shock you. This'll shock you. 536 million newspapers a day are sold across the world. Let's have a look at that again. 536 million newspapers sold across the world every day. Is that a dying industry? If you were in an industry that sold 356 million units a day, 536 million units a day, would you say, oh, well, I'm part of a dying industry, you see, I won't be around much longer? So let's look at it a different way. Now, every industry has... I'm sorry, something just happened. My screen just went blank. I'm back though. Right. Every industry has a standard. And our standard for measuring sales and measuring readership is this. We're allowed to double or almost treble the sales figures. That's because in the world of like statistics, you can say that probably 3 people read each newspaper, because that's it. You buy it, you read it, you give it to your missus or to your husband or to your dog or to your child, or somebody picks it up on the bus, whatever. So that means there are about 1.5 billion daily readers of newspapers. Yes, and newspapers are seen by these 1.5 million people and the rest of the world as heinous, lying, despoiling, misleading, exaggerating, clickbaiting, sensationalizing, scandalizing, distorting, disingenuous, despicable, debasing, disgusting, sexist, hateful, and hating out of all the forms of the media. That's what I am. Well, we must be doing something right, mustn't we? All those newspaper people, we must be doing something right, because as much as the haters, 1.5 billion people, readers, every day. Yeah. Now, if you look at it this way, I'm just going to move the screen down so I can look at it as well. If you look at it this way, if newspapers were part of a dying industry, and that's the publishing industry, then magazines must be dying as well. Now, bear with me. There are, in 2018, is the latest figures I could find, there were 373 million glossy magazines sold in the UK alone. Forget about America, forget about the massive markets in Europe, forget about all those kind of markets, just in the UK. That's how many were sold. Now we're talking about paid for markets. I can take off my waddly glasses for a minute now. We're talking about paid for markets, earning money as a writer. Now that kind of dying industry, with all those billions of readers and sales and advertising, is actually one of the biggest markets you can be involved in. It's not going to make you a millionaire. It might make you a millionaire. There are some journalists who become millionaires. Not many at all. Certainly not me. But it will make you a living. It'll make you an average living of, say, if you're in America, $80, $90, $100,000 a year. In Britain, your average journalist, writer, sub-editor, maybe 40, 50,000 a year. Not if you work on a weekly newspaper. Don't start writing and telling me off saying I don't know what I'm talking about. If you go and join a weekly newspaper, which is what the happy hunting ground is for talent, then you might earn as little as 16, 26, 30,000 maybe. If you raise yourself to editor status, you might get a nice car with newsletter written down the side or something like that. But that's the sort of money you can earn. You can earn a good living as a writer. Now, what you've got to look at is the integrity of what you're doing. Now, first of all, let me say, my first major job on a newspaper involved the horrible, absolutely terrible fire at the Woolworths store in Manchester. Now that basically caught fire because there was no control over the kind of materials that were used in furniture, and Woolworths sold quite a lot of furniture. Now, I was there at the scene at this fire. I'm not going to go into what it was like, but that's part of the job of a writer, to describe those kind of things that happen. But it's also part of the job of the writer to go out and try and make things better in the world. And I fought through my newspaper at the time to get the kite mark put on furniture. And we did it eventually. We did it. We had the kite mark, which standardized and made safe the kind of material you could use in furniture. And that was because of the Woolworths fire. Now, after that, I went to war in Northern Ireland. I think I did some good there by writing about what was going on there, letting people know what our soldiers were going through. I came back, I got involved in covering the satanic abuse of children scandal, which, you know, it went on for years. I hunted down a lot of known perverts like the MP Cyril Smith, like the DJ Jimmy Savile, Ray Terrett and Stuart Hall, all those people. Later on, I began fighting to save villages from HGVs, and I'm also very heavily involved now in the coverage and the battle against parental alienation. Now, I think that means I've done some good in this world as a tabloid terror, and I've made a living. I've made a living. I've been a writer all my life and I've made a living. So, next bit. So how heinous are people like me? Let me go over. I'll be back. Don't worry, I'll be back. I'll be back. Right, now let's have a look at another major dying industry. Yeah? And that's the God industry. Now don't get me wrong. I have no disrespect for God or religion. But it's interesting to know, right, that an industry which sells to you, hook or by crook, gets us to sell our souls to them based on what you think came first, God or the universe. There's a question to be answered. But now the God industry in the US alone, just in the US, is worth £1.2 trillion. Now everybody goes on about Rupert Murdoch being the god of the media industry. Who's the god of the God industry? Where's all that £1.2 trillion a year gone in America? Why have newspaper men, newspaper people, newspaper women, why have they got to give their money away and be told off all the time? God's not told off because his industry's worth 1.2 million, is he? Or is he? I don't know. Right, next one. What about the internet? You ready? Well, this is a very difficult one to answer because I can't read the figures really, so I'll have to spell it out. But the internet, right, that lying, other hideous, lying, cheating, pornographic, absolutely ludicrously misspelt, outrageously presented stupidity is worth, in dollars, 1,319 billion. That's how much the internet's worth. Yeah. New. Let's compare the industries. Let's have a look at some of the research about online honesty. Now, researchers, and you don't have to believe them either, everybody lies. Everybody lies in newspapers, the internet, researchers, God, everybody lies. But the researchers say that there is no exception to the fact that online deception is the order of the day. Now listen to this, you might remember this happened on YouTube. It was back in 2013 and it happened on YouTube. YouTube discovered that more than half, it was about 60% of the YouTube traffic that they were getting was actually bots. That's robots. That's really robots. We've been taken over by robots. We have. Masquerading as people. That was robots pretending to be people. Those were the people who were going on YouTube. They weren't people. They were robots. Yeah. And this figure was so high, so incredibly high, that the fraudulent traffic, right, was about to take over the whole of YouTube. It wasn't going to be a human being on YouTube, it's all going to be robots going meh, meh, like that. And that's the truth. In truth, fakeness of the internet is incalculable. Right, newspapers again. Let's go to newspapers. Do you know, right, and this is true, 49 cases of defamation were taken to court in 2017, and only 22% of them, right, were newspapers. Less than 10 of the people who were taken to court for defamation were newspaper editors, right? And the celebrities lost almost to a man and woman on those. It was celebrities who took them. Yeah, the celebrities lost. Well, here's the last. This is the payoff, right? This is the payoff to me, anyway. There is, or was, now I tell you it's a was because I've been there, right? There was a telephone booth that stood at a crossroads in the wastelands of the Mojave Desert. A very famous writer once said that it had a free phone call on it, and that was so every gambler who'd become a loser could call the next station on their losing street, or they could call their God. When the internet, right, that most honest thing, discovered the phone booth by proxy because real writers have been writing about it, it went so insane, absolutely insane. It went so insane that they had to pull the telephone box down. It was no longer a secret. People were destroying it. People were damaging it. So there was one of the wonders of the world destroyed by another so-called wonder of the world. Now, as a travel journalist, I'm coming back to look at you, don't worry, I'm just reading this. Some years ago, as a travel journalist, I drove into the Mojave Desert to see if I could find anything left of this telephone booth. It was supposedly only ever used by cinder miners who wanted to order supplies. And I arrived in the blistering sun, and even the concrete plinth that it had once stood on was gone. Now, who's telling the truth? The one who said you could call God on it? The internet that destroyed it? Or the writer who earned some money out of going there and finding out the truth, that it was gone? Now, I say, if you want to make a living as a writer, go to a marketplace that will give you money and tell stories. Tell them well. But above everything else, tell the absolute, the honest, the straightforward truth. That's what writing is about. Even if you're writing a novel, it is based on facts. Use those facts. Because you know what? Then people will believe you. Thank you. Speak to you again soon.